Well, this is newsworthy.
Donald Trump, what an impotent leader. I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. He should be impeached and removed for this one. Don't! No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
All right, there are a lot of crazy things going on. I have a lot of people that unsubscribe to me all the time because they're embroiled in and they're drinking the Kool-Aid for the left versus right paradigm lie. They're in the cult of personality. They're locked in cognitive dissonance cement blocks. Let me just say, I'm not just an American, I'm a human being. And we don't want war. We don't want to be stolen from. We don't want wide-scale theft. We don't want to be lied to. We don't want to be deceived or defrauded or coerced. I think we're all in the same boat and we can align on those principles. But these are principles. And they're not principles because a majority of the people agree with them, because for the most part, people are so deceived that they don't actually agree with those. In other words, they say it's okay to punish murderers, but then when you have legalized mass murder, i.e. war, they're not really for punishing the warmongers, or they might say that they are, but then we never see it in society because for the most part, society rejects punishing leaders. And that's just one example. It's never okay to steal. It's never okay to harm somebody. It's never okay to threaten somebody or defraud somebody or coerce somebody or violate their will or move against their consent. And yet somehow it's okay to do that, and it's legitimate and it's legalized if you have the hat called government. If you're wearing a suit and tie and you call yourself a politician, if you wear a black robe and you call yourself a Supreme Court justice. So when you've got this No Kings rally right here, you have people who are hoodwinked and cemented in their own hypocrisy. And let me just, before I start this, because there's a lot of people on the geopolitical and just the regular domestic political stage that are moving away from Trump, even some formerly ardent Trump supporters. And the reason they are is because all this stuff going on in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. But I want to show you this before we get started. I want to show you this comment under my last video. The name of the video is The Only Answer to the Political Divide. The only answer to the political divide. It's not marching in the streets. It's not saying no kings while you're promoting and voting for your king. The real answer is found in this video, so check it out. But I want to highlight this comment right here. Earl says, obviously, you missed the point of no kings. It isn't about my king over your king. It absolutely is. Now, you can have a guy with power that you don't call a king, that you don't call a monarch, that you don't call Chairman Mao, but he wields the same power. And he controls the same kind of death machine who wreaks the same kind of havoc. Doesn't matter. We're playing semantics here. President, king, monarch, chairman, overlord, controller. It's about stopping the current president from getting what he has openly stated he wants. Ultimate, unchecked power. The day an elected Democrat is allowed to get away with all the things Trump has gotten away with, who then starts acting the way Donald Trump acts while ignoring the law and just doing whatever he wants without consequences and seeing all of the people who support him go along with it, that's when you can try to make the both sides argument. Until then, you're just saying a lot of words, but you're not really saying anything at all. Not really, because you said the day that an elected Democrat does it. What did Biden do? Same thing Trump did. Locked down the nation, forced businesses into closure, closed schools, closed churches, said you couldn't visit grandma. They got to die alone in their hospital bed. You can't go visit them. Isn't that ultimate unchecked power? No, because you got to understand, Brian, not only was Biden on it, on this train, this trust the science train, not only was he saying, hey, get the vax or else, but Anthony Fauci, Deborah Birx were on board with that. The 535 in Congress were for that because everybody got to keep everybody safe. The 9 in the Supreme Court justices, they were on it. I don't care if it's the 9 plus the 535 plus the 1 president of the United States. If they're all acting with unchecked power against the people, what does it matter if there's 535 or 9 or 1 versus 1 king? They're all doing the same thing. They're taking away your liberties and they're stealing your wealth. Trump did it. Obama did it. Biden did it. Reagan did it. Carter did it. Yeah, they're doing it with, we did it democratically. Democratically or monarchically, what does it matter? What does it matter if one person does it or a group of people does it? If they enact tyranny against the rest of us, then they, the group, have unchecked power, or that one person has unchecked power. What does it matter if it comes from a couple dozen people or just one person? It doesn't. What does it matter if you call him a president or a chairman or an overlord or a king? It doesn't. It's the same result. So yeah, what they're saying is my king over your king, my president over your president, my party over your party. We got to get rid of MAGA and we got to install the other party that's also controlled by the corporate elitists and the Zio International Banking Cartel. So I don't know what you're talking about, Earl. I'm just saying a bunch of words without saying anything at all. And now we've got a bunch of people who once supported Donald Trump, like statist Dave Smith. And I'm not saying anything bad about Dave Smith, but he is a statist. He's a believer in government. He believed, and he showed by his actions that he believed that Donald Trump would do the best possible job for the American people. He won't lead us to war. He'll lead us to a sound economy. So he had this trust. He had a statist trust in the government, in the Donald Trump government, that things would get better. He voted for the lesser of two evils. He did what statists do. And now he's regretting that, and he's apologized for it. Crystal Ball says, true to his word, comic Dave Smith apologized for his Trump support and even calls for Trump's impeachment and removal after Trump helps launch Iran war. Full segment. Okay, so let's watch this.
It was in 2007.
Listen to his words and think about how many people warned libertarian Dave Smith that your support for Donald Trump is a support for Zio International Bankers. Listen to what Dave Smith is actually saying. Your support for Donald Trump is your support for the Rothschilds International Banking Cartel. It's support for the guy who enacted the largest power and wealth transfer in world history with the CARES Act, $6.2 trillion. It's a vote for Donald red flag gun confiscation law Trump. I like take the guns first, due process second Trump. I don't understand how somebody can claim to be a libertarian, claim to be for freedom, claim to be against the state, and yet vote against freedom and for the state and for Zio International Bankers.
That the Pentagon told George W. Bush that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian, the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese. Right. Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one.
But how did it seem like the right one? You had a whole, I could understand if this is 2016 and you don't know what kind of job Trump is going to do. That he's going to demolish the economy, devalue the dollar, exponentially increase the national debt over and above what Obama did, drop more bombs and send more drones than Drone Bombia did. By my calculations, and according to the Air Power Summary, Obama dropped 37, 39 bombs every single day of his presidency for 8 years. Donald Trump dropped 46 bombs every single day of his presidency. It's not that he didn't start new wars. It's about him beefing up and deepening the pockets of the military industrial complex and the defense contractors and sending boatloads of money to Israel, just like his predecessor did. Just like all presidents do. So you have this history, but Dave Smith says it's going to be different this time. I'll just vote. I know he's evil. He's proven himself to be evil. Look at the national debt just went up like crazy. The value of the dollar got trashed. Inflation started taking hold. He was in the back pocket of the Zio International Banking Cartel, but I voted for him. And in face of all of that knowledge, all of that history, he still voted for Donald Trump. And I can say the same thing about anybody who voted for Obama or Biden or the Clintons or Reagan or whatever. So don't try to group me into, oh, you're just a Democrat. You're just a liberal retard. Come on. Let's just talk logically, objectively, historically. So based on the history of Donald Trump wrecking the American dollar, leading the economy to ruin, dropping more bombs than Obama, overseeing the biggest power and wealth transfer that the world has ever seen, in face of that, people like Dave Smith voted for him anyway. And now he's apologizing. It's like knowing exactly what Jeffrey Dahmer has done and going, let's let him out of prison. Let's just give him another chance. Let's bring Ted Bundy into our community and accept him with open arms. And then everybody else is going, you don't understand. Wait, what about the history of Ted Bundy? What about the history of Jeffrey Dahmer? Look what they've done. We can't let them out of prison. We definitely can't let them out of prison and let them into our community. And Dave Smith's like, no, come on. It'll be different this time. I have hope. I know they're evil, but they're probably a lesser evil than maybe somebody else we might let out of jail. That's what Dave, and now Dave Smith is apologizing? Until next time. And then next time we'll probably have somebody that's far more deceptive than Donald Trump, that doesn't even have the horrible track record of Donald Trump. And the Dave Smiths of this world are going to tell you to vote for him too. Unbelievable. Wait, he's not done yet.
But he should be impeached and removed for this one. Wow. And not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never.
This guy voted for a guy who calls himself the father of the VAXX, the initiator of Operation Warp Speed and Space Farce.
Never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is like the.
Wait, what did he say?
Yeah.
Will never. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But
wait, what?
As for doing so, it was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one.
How did it seem like the right path to travel when you already knew how horrible Trump's history is? That he's owned by the Zio International Banking Cartel when he went upside down with Taj Mahal in Atlantic City in the 1990s. That he was bailed out by Rothschilds Inc., and the employer Rothschilds Inc., Wilbur Ross, who 25 years Trump appointed as his commerce secretary, and then gave the Treasury Secretary helm to Steve Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs, Zio International banker. I don't understand. Dave, I am small potato. I am microplankton in the sea of life. Dave is like he's like a blue whale. You can barely see me at all. So Dave, if you see this video, I'm not against you personally, but I got a real problem with your logic training, your thought process on this. And I really question your morals and your principles, because you know how bad Trump was and you voted for him anyway. You led your audience. You influenced your audience, whether you think you did or not. You influenced them to also support Donald Trump. How could you not see it coming? And how bad is it going to be when somebody far more deceptive than Donald Trump comes along who doesn't have a horrible Zio International Banking Cartel track history?
But he should be impeached and removed for this one. Wow. And not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is like the
Congress is all a bunch of corrupt hacks. Donald Trump is as corrupt as the day is long. So is Biden. So is Harris. So is the entire Democrat Party and the DNC and RNC, which are corporately controlled structures that care nothing about the freedoms of America.
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say,
and you believed him after a 4-year run of devastation.
Despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain. Dave Smith, remember that during the next election cycle when a real deceptive guy comes across. Rob Schneider says, in true left versus right paradigm fashion, for your entertainment, here's an irrational, self-contradictory, next-level apologist. This person, talking about Dave Smith, doesn't acknowledge or seem to want to come to the very basic knowledge that if the Democrats won the last election, America would be in a hot war with Iran. Thankfully, we are not. So here's another guy, just like Dave Smith, maybe on a different level, maybe with a little bit of different nuance. Here's another guy who's on the same path as Dave Smith, and that is the path of statism versus volunteerism. Volunteerism is not statism. Volunteerism is the moral high ground. Statism is as low as you can possibly go. It is the bottom of the barrel, scum of the swamp. What you got to understand is there's two sides to every stage. There's the side that you can see where the puppets are animated, and then there's behind the curtain where you see the puppet masters doing the animating. We understand from policies, from the actions of presidents, from the Congress, from the Supreme Court, whose side they're actually on when they violate rights. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. Isn't it time we do something different instead of doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result? If you want to support this channel, just give this video a like and share it with everybody you know. It's absolutely free. If you want to support even further, the Cash App and all the links are in the description below if you want to grab a shirt or become a channel member, whatever. But we got to understand, we got to set brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. I mean, real roaring fires of freedom in our hearts. That's the only way we can lead America to peace, freedom, and prosperity. I will see you in the next video.